Hey there, welcome to the Mental Perk podcast. I'm Carla Hutcherson, licensed professional counselor.
And I'm Brandy Mock, entrepreneur, author, and community leader. And we're here to talk about
real people, real issues, and real talk. Hey, welcome back to the Mental Perk. Brandy and I are so excited to welcome our guest today, Brad Newton. And how I know Brad is he was my fifth grade teacher, so I'm so excited to have him here. But he has such an interesting career that we are just so excited to talk about, and some of his, experiences in life that he is willing to share with us that we're going to learn so much about today. But he was with the Texas Rangers as a team photographer from like what was it, Brad?
It was 85.
1985 to 2012, right?
2012.
So he did that for a very long time. He worked with the Dallas Cowboys. He just has such a very long history of being a professional photographer. So we're so excited to have him. The other neat thing about Brad is he is also a improv comedian. So
yes, ma'am.
Hopefully we'll get a few laughs in here today.
And if you anger me, do I put you in detention? Do I still have that kind of control?
Yeah. Was it timeout or detention back then?
I don't know.
Yeah.
And did you back then though? Didn't you get to do like the paddle?
No.
Was that already gone by then?
No, we use whips.
Okay.
I think there was
That's
a
why the
paddle
kids were so
somewhere.
good, though.
I don't.
Do you
unless
not remember?
I don't.
Well, it's because I was
never,
such a perfect student, right?
Well, I know, but there were imperfect kids in my classroom,
And
those are the ones I love the most. So,
Yes.
because they had an imperfect teacher.
Well, for all of those McCoy Elementary students out there, I'm pretty sure I was his favorite. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So just letting y'all know that.
Hey, detention.
Detention.
Well, tell me a little bit about your journey along the way. So, I knew you a while back. It was just a little while back, though, right?
Yeah, we hope it was. Yeah, it all depends on your
You know what,
relative.
girls? He's still really cute. I thought he was cute back there in fifth grade, and he's still
thanks.
just as cute as he was.
Carla
now.
had a
He's
crush
really
on her
cute,
teacher.
But I don't have a mullet.
No, you don't.
Did you have a mullet back in the day?
A mullet and a mustache.
Yeah,
Oh.
it was more of a D'Artagnan look than a full mullet, right? Yeah.
You're setting the new trend for the future.
I had no idea what I was doing, but that's called teaching, isn't it?
Yeah.
What did you think about being a teacher? Because it's so different today than it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it was probably.
Question.
I mean, it's just such a hard profession.
Yeah, I have full respect for anybody that's a teacher nowadays because it's very script oriented, and you have to be really careful every moment and every word that comes out of your mouth. But let's go back to the 80s when you could actually teach, when you could use the moments that you have to use the information that you have and create the lesson. It isn't a matter of following the script, that everybody has to be on the same page at the same time. Now, or back then, it was where, okay, what comes to mind that connects with, like when I got into the gifted program, when I got to teach LEAP, and I think we were talking about it earlier, I walked into a program that had no books and no curriculum. I had 26 fifth and sixth graders. IQs started at 150, and I only have one question. Who had the lowest IQ in class? Okay,
was that you?
Your laugh gave it away.
Guys, I'm still sitting here waiting for the punchline.
No, that was the punchline. I remember the first day of class, we were kind of getting to know everybody because it was a pull-out program from the whole district, right? And so I remember Stuart, third grader, we were walking around, Stuart, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he looks at me and goes, Mr. Newton, I want to be an ornithologist.
I'm still wondering what an ornithologist
I know, and I looked at him, I went, so you want to study ornos? And he looked at me with just disgust. He goes, that's birds. Mr. Newton, it's birds. Okay, I learned something first day.
I've never heard of
grader.
that.
I didn't. I just learned it today.
I mean, it sounds like
At
something
least
else.
you learned it back then.
Yeah, at least. But, I just ran into that. It's like, Stuart.
Have you ever used it since then?
No. No, I have not.
You've never met an ornithologist?
I have never. We could go down a really weird path right there, but no, I have not. I know I saw a blue jay today. I knew who that was, or a cardinal. But.
Well, remind me after this podcast. I got to tell you a very good bird story.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have one for you too.
Okay.
And it has to do with a certain president. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I'm going to remember that.
Yeah.
We're going to remind
We don't want to talk about it now?
No, we don't.
Okay.
No, we don't. But when I was teaching the LEAP kids, I had complete freedom.
Yeah.
And for that to happen, it was the most creative times in my life because I had to create what was happening the next day. And it was the hardest work I ever loved. And the kids, we were a family. And I really appreciated the fact that the kids came along for that ride.
Right.
In fact, I would tell them, you behave and let me be the crazy one, and you're going to learn a lot. If you're misbehaving, then I got to play teacher, right, and say, squash, don't do this. And we're going to not head in the direction that you need to go. Because I was teaching algebra to fourth graders.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And
to
after
think
that,
about.
And after that, it's like, what's next? I don't know. I
You
hated
didn't want to go
geometry.
into trigonometry, calculus, any of
Even
those things.
algebra 2 I didn't want to
No,
go into.
no.
So it's like, here's the book. And I remember the head of the math department, no names, he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm just meeting the kids where they are, in math. And I'm teaching them algebra. And he goes, well, what am I supposed to do? And I went, well, that's why you're paid the big bucks,
Right.
You figure it out. So he said, well, okay, this is what I'm going to do. You teach the algebra, I'll give them a test. And the test was something he came up with. It wasn't the standardized, you've passed algebra test. He jacked up oops, I touched the desk.
Oh, it's fine.
He jacked up the test, and all the kids just totally slammed it, 100%.
These kids are brilliant.
Oh, it was just let them go.
Yeah.
Just let them go.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen anymore.
No.
But the stuff we got to do.
I love that.
We made animated films. We had connections with people like Ray Bradbury, which we conversed back and forth, and we were reading some of his stories and actually got to see him talk one time. And the kids came, and I remember he's given us his talk, and you know who Ray Bradbury is, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, author, incredible science fiction writer. So he says, I got time for questions. So I remember one of my kids stood up and said, Mr. Bradbury, in the book, whatever it was, or the story, blah, 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 your female character, ... was that a metaphor for a blah, blah, blah? And he just stood there, and he's going,
Is this a college class or an elementary school?
What? And he just laughed, and he just responded like adult-wise. He didn't
Right.
like to dumb it down.
Yeah.
Because the question was not dumb.
Right.
Yeah, so...
That's pretty. So some really smart people came out of McCoy Elementary. I'm pretty sure of it.
Well, actually, that was Country Place.
Oh, that was Country Place?
Yeah.
You moved over there.
Yeah, that's where the LEAP program.
Okay.
Sorry, Carla. Sorry.
Yeah. But
Dang.
there was a few smart kids in McCoy, too. Smart Alex, that's for sure. Now I remember you.
I'm sure I was there somewhere along the way. Yeah, pretty sure of it.
But that's where I started using improv as a teaching tool, as an educational prop, because the kids there needed to learn how to deal with each other. Because, being really, really smart, you can get kind of lost in your own head.
Yeah.
And being from all over the district, nobody really had a relationship, right?
Yeah.
And so improv, which is all about communication, it's all about that yes and. You accept, what, not accept, but
ACC,
See, that's the one.
EPT.
Thank you. I taught you that. I remember.
Yes,
I remember
grammar.
that. That was
Grammar
one
was very important.
Yes, and so was Grandpa. So now I lost. Oh yes, improv, right?
Yes.
And I saw a lot of emotional change, and the kids started really listening to each other. They started to respond to each other with accept what the other person says and add to it, and that raised it to another level. And I learned these games through a group called Comedy Sports, and I would go. This is before I was married, and so I would go every Friday night and watch these guys do these games, like Whose Line Is It Anyway?
I love that one.
So that's called short form improv. So I use those games educationally, right?
Yeah.
And so the people in Comedy Sports would see me in the corner every week with a notepad, and they felt sorry for me because I was there by myself. And they said, "What is he taking notes?" So I got to know them, and I kind of joined the group. And a couple of them said, we want to go into schools and do improv.
Oh.
And I said, well, I've got the educational background. You have the talent.
Right.
So we formed a group called Kidprov. And that's, as I was telling you, in 91, I'm recently married, and I tell my wife, Cecilia, hey, I'm going to quit teaching, and I'm going to do this improv stuff. And of course,
she looked at
she's
you like you had
and-
3 eyes.
And
Yeah.
what bill's that going to pay?
Yeah, exactly. It's that slow motion fist that's coming out. Tick, 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 tick. But it was a massive success. We worked with an arts and education program in Dallas, and we had 6 people in the group. And I'm going to use numbers here. We each were making $40,000 a year doing improv in schools.
Wow.
And
That is so crazy. And I just think, what an amazing program that would help
Right.
kids right now, because
Just be them
especially
and have
after
fun
COVID,
and outlet.
we had this raise of depression and anxiety in
Yeah.
these kids. And imagine comedy would be a way for them to fall in love with school again. It just
Right.
would happen.
Yeah, and because of the fundamentals of improv, where there's comedy kind of underneath it, but if you use it in a strictly like educational background, it's still going to be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still going to be interesting. And games, kids love games,
Yeah,
but
they do.
it's non-technical. There's no phones. There's nothing. It's all about the idea that you have and the idea I have. And that brings me to, the think outside your box.
Yes.
Right? I do not believe in that. Because how can you think outside of what you know? You can't. You can only
Interesting.
create what you have from what you have, right? And because improv or creativity is about putting together things that
Yeah.
haven't existed before. You can't think of something that you don't know, okay?
Yeah.
So my idea is this, that you cannot think outside your box. The only way you can is to connect to another box. And that's what improv is all about. You have what you know, you connect what the next person has, and that's where the synergy happens. That's where
just
creativity.
play off of each other.
Exactly. Use what you know to make up what you don't. Well, guess what? The more people I have in my box area, right, connected to me, the more information I have, the more opportunity there is. And so I know that's getting kind of
No, but
It's
philosophical out
super
there.
cool, though.
I think about all the kids that probably were a part of this program did not even realize their talent until you helped them tap into it.
Oh, yeah. In fact, in 2001, a couple of us in Kidprov formed Improv, a Christian improv troupe, and we performed at my church monthly for 20 years.
Wow.
The beginning of Improv was us guys and 2 of my ex-students from LEAP that had done improv in my class, and so they were the OGs of Improv, right? They've moved on, and one of them's a pastor, and whatever. But the point is that they were there.
They were there.
One of them even came up with the name Improv, Himprov. So it manifests.
But I even think now with my patients, and I see teens and things like that, and I love where you're saying you meet them where they're at. You
Yeah.
don't try to get outside the box. You kind of meet them where they're at, and that's what I'm doing with therapy as well. So it runs in the same.
Oh yeah, and I know there's a group called the Applied Improvisational Network. That's hard to say for me. But it's a worldwide organization that applies improv to many, many areas, whether it is therapy, whether it's the special needs,
Yes.
whatever you want. In fact, a good friend of mine has a ministry that he does improv with trafficked women.
Wow.
What?
I know. He was just in town the other day, and
Will you introduce us to this person?
absolutely, and because it's a newer ministry. He's been doing this for a while, but he went full ministry, he and his wife, just in the last year. So he could use all the support he wants.
Oh, wow.
So
We'd love
would
to have
love
him.
it.
We'd love to have him.
He is hilarious too. I mean, he's a very interesting guy. I just ran into him. He was in town, and he was at my church.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like, I knew he was in town.
It was meant to be.
But he just I turned around, Dave, and he goes, Brad, it's like, I thought you were in a different church. And I went, no, I'm right here, and you are right here. So, yeah, he had been in town to work with some of the people that work at one of the organizations and teaching them improv and how to work with
I
with
love
the
that.
patients, I guess you would call them. Yeah.
Survivors.
Survivors. We'll
Okay,
call them
thank you.
that. That's
Okay.
a great
Yeah.
word because,
Thank you.
100%. We've been trying to get that on our show because we know that is such a huge issue right now, and we want to draw attention to it.
It's a lot bigger than we think, and just to know how neat that is that these women can tap into something and truly make them think inside the box, like you said, but tap off their experiences and make it something that's helping them cope through it.
Exactly. And
I love that.
And again, I've not been in one of his workshops,
Right.
but again, connecting boxes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Connecting those and seeing that other people they're suffering because anytime
Yes.
you can get outside yourself, you know
Yeah.
that therapist.
Yes.
You're not focused so much on, your own
Pain.
issues and own pain. Yes.
It's a healthy distraction.
And your
It really
grief
is.
does not become such a big grief because the next person's story may be a lot bigger than their own story, and it just helps you cope.
It does.
Absolutely.
It
And
does.
of course, laughter is a
Yes.
precipitant of,
Oh, yeah.
of
That is
improv.
a great coping skill.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
There's-
love laughing.
It is the key to community. And
It
I can't
is.
remember who said that, but laughter is the key to community. And I think C.S. Lewis, it was a quote, he said, the sound I love more than anything else is men laughing together.
Oh, yeah.
And because men don't do that very much.
They don't.
They should.
I totally agree. And that's why I love doing the improv with my guys and gals, and that we are having more fun than the audience is
Well,
having.
maybe we should take an improv class with him.
Right here. Oh, my hands
my
up.
That would be
Gosh.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Do you teach any classes?
I have, and right now I'm between classes because I'm looking for a place.
Okay.
Because in my old church, I had access to rooms. The new church, I'm still new, right? And they don't have the room for
Well,
us
maybe
yet.
we can access it here.
I bet we can.
Yeah. And just, if we can get 10 or 12 people, that would be just amazing.
Oh, that would be fun.
yeah.
All right, my mind's going.
Is that the sound I heard? Okay.
She has creativity over here. She's the creative side.
Well, guess what? You do too, because you're going to connect to that
Yes,
creativity.
exactly.
See how that
You're
works?
welcome,
Exactly.
Carly. You're welcome.
I had to see your you somewhere. I had to put you to use somewhere. So, yeah. All right. Well, I remember you being a funny guy, but on top of that, I remember you really diving into photography.
Yeah.
So how do those play off each other?
Everything. I was talking to a buddy. Actually, I was talking to my trainer the other day about being behind the camera, and not to get too philosophical, but when you're behind the camera, you are an observer. You are not, and especially when I'm doing stuff. Because lately, since I left the Rangers, I work with a lot of high-level, important people, whether they're political or whether they're what am I thinking of here? Corporate, whatever. I mean, we're talking about high level, including presidents, et cetera. So I have to be extremely background,
Yeah.
right? And in doing so, there's a separation there. And so then you take that, and the improv is just, that's the other side of my brain, if you will, because now I'm in front of an audience, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
those things fit together so well. Being a photographer, being a teacher, I'm in front. I'm not performing, but yes, I'm performing, right?
Yes.
So photography was just something I enjoyed in high school. My dad always had a camera, and we had also like 8mm. We would make cartoons and stupid films and stuff like that. But it really boiled down to the photography thing. Is I found out, and it was 1980 that they had an old timers game at Arlington Stadium, the original place where the Rangers played. And it had the guys that I grew up idolizing, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Ernie Banks, Mickey Mantle.
Wow.
And I said, yeah. And I said, I want to be there. So I went to this little teeny Farmers Branch newspaper, the Suburban News. And I said, hey, I'm a teacher in the district. Here's my references. I want to go and do this and write an article for you. And they went, okay. So that was my first day out there. I still have the black and white images.
So they gave you a press pass, and that's how you got in.
Exactly. And then I would go every once in a while. And eventually I found that the Rangers were looking for a photographer in 85. And I submitted my bid, which was like minuscule.
Yeah.
Right? It was like, I want
And
this
they're
job.
They're like, we want him.
Yeah, exactly.
the
And I had
cost
some
is right.
references. I did
Okay.
have some references. One of them was the Cubs photographer because I became friends with him. And so it's like, hey, it just worked out. So 85, it started out, and I didn't do a whole lot because they really didn't need a lot. And then eventually it just...
It grew and grew.
Grew and grew, and especially when the digital age hit in 2001.
Yeah.
You know, I'd go to spring training, you know, all those things. So we just keep building to the point of we need the stuff next day.
Yeah.
But when I quit at 12, that was the right time to quit.
Yeah.
Because after that, things get hairier and
It's-
hairier and hairier.
A lot has changed.
Exactly.
I mean, you were kind of like in the beginning
Yeah.
of photography,
That-
and now it's
yeah.
changed so much.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like, are people really working these cameras, or is it AI doing everything now?
You don't get me started on that because
Okay.
I appreciate the talent of
I
every
do too.
photographer.
I do too.
Everybody, and what it takes. That was my favorite thing about baseball. I mean, I have a baseball for a heart. I mean, I love it. I was born in Chicago Cubs, Wrigley Field. I was just that's my sport, and I lost track of what I was going to say. But the bottom line is that if you can be inside the game headwise,
Right.
and know this is where I think that this is going to have them predict that the ball's going this direction,
Yeah.
and then you're right half the time.
Yeah,
Which is really cool. So
Yeah.
you're playing the game as you're photographing the game,
yeah,
right? And
One of your points was, I
Yeah.
think, was especially that you love the art of photography, and with so much technology, it kind of takes away from that.
that's interesting. And anything I say is going to reduce somebody's talent, and I don't want to do that. But when you can fire 20 frames a second at a play at second base, you're going to be editing like forever, first of all. But most of all, you've got almost like film, right? You almost got just a complete run flip book wise of what's happening. And I'll pick image number 17 out of 20 or 25. And you're going to get better images, right? Because you're going to catch that moment. But back in the days when it was manual focus and you have 36 frames on your roll of film, and if you're going to use your auto winder, it's going to be click, click, like that, rather than, So that was a good impression.
That was
wasn't it?
really,
That was really good.
I
There
could
it is
totally
again.
see. I could totally see.
I just
it.
took 112 pictures of you.
Send them to us when you're done. Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And good luck on editing that. So when 12 hit, it was time to move on. They wanted my contract position, which would be, you get paid this much and you're here when we need you,
Right.
to full time. And it's like, no way. I mean, I do not want to sit at a desk. And the guy that hired me in 85 is still there today.
Wow.
So he goes, I know we've been a quarter of a century together, and I understand you have a lot of irons in the fire, because he knew I did improv. He knew I had other
Right.
clients and stuff like that. It was still tough because that was
It was such a big part of your life.
massive part of my life. And we talked about my first marriage with my wife passing away in 2008, and that family of the Rangers and the photographers, that we were so tight to begin with, that I would, every evening during the baseball season, I had a place to go.
Oh, wow.
I had people to hang with. I got to be with the game that I love and be involved in it, right?
Right.
Photographing
It was
it.
part of your recovery from the grief process.
Massive.
Yeah.
Massive. And that was tough to leave that.
Yeah.
Because that is truly a family
Yeah.
that I love dearly. And those are the days around there when I left, when Nolan Ryan was there. And Nolan brought the family feel. Every Friday was in.
I love me some Nolan.
Yeah. Okay, so
Love me some
okay,
Nolan.
here's
I love me some Nolan.
Okay, here we go. So I'm in the photo well, and Nolan sits right next to the photo well. So a ball comes bounding into the photo well, and it's not, it's just a lazy fall ball, and I just stuck my hand up, and it glanced off my fingers. And so his security guy, Fred, goes, Brad. I went, what? He said, Nolan wants to talk to you. And I went, yeah. And I look at Nolan. He looks at me. He goes, clank. But I got him back.
Were you there whenever the big famous fight took
No,
place?
I was not there.
You didn't get pictures of it.
No, I wasn't there for that. Linda Kay was an AP photographer, and she's the one that took that iconic picture. Unfortunately, she passed away many years ago, and really never. Every time I see somebody posting that picture on Facebook, I say, this picture was taken by Linda Kay, and I kind of gave her background story.
Yeah.
And she was irascible. She was just like, "Meh." But once you get to know her, she was just she was a doll.
Oh.
Yeah. No, but I wasn't there. But
so let's go back and talk about you talk about
Oh, whoa! Time out! I want to finish my Nolan story.
Oh, my bad.
Because clank.
Rewind.
Clank. So okay. Now that's why I told this one so I could tell this.
Okay.
So he's playing golf. I'm shooting a golf tournament. And he's teeing off. He's not a big golf fan, but, Nolan, I hope you're listening. So he just takes the big old Nolan, and the ball trickles behind him into a
What? I'm thinking it's going to go 330 yards.
I know.
It's different playing golf. They try to put this power behind it, and there's no there. It's all in just watching the ball and smoothly swinging through.
But
you're not trying to kill it.
No,
oh my
he
God.
tried to kill it.
He tried to kill it. So he was frustrated. I said, Nolan. He goes, what? I said, is that your 8th no-hitter? And
He started chasing me with a one.
Yeah, really.
No,
his wife was
The one
there. His wife
She
was
did
there.
it for you.
No.
You so got him back, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. That was an important story.
No, I loved it.
that's
I
great.
actually did love it a lot. I love me some Nolan. So let's go into, you talked about the Rangers being there for you through a loss that you experienced. Talk to us about the loss and what happened and how you processed everything.
Okay. All right. Cecilia and I were married in 91, and I think we talked about me moving on to do an improv. And in 2008, she was visiting her daughter, my stepdaughter, and the first baby, and so first daughter, only daughter, first baby, big thing, right?
Yes.
And I get a call, because I'm still in Dallas, and I get a call saying that something happened. We don't know what. And thank goodness for Southwest Airlines, big plug there, because their last flight out was 9:30, and I got the call at 8:30, so I was on that plane. And I found out she had a brain hemorrhage, and she was gone pretty much in seconds. I mean, she was babysitting, and everybody else was at church. They came back, couldn't get in the house. Saw her sitting in the rocking chair with her head back and her hands palm up in her lap, and the baby on the floor.
Oh
and
my goodness!
The baby they busted the door down. They got in there. Baby's fine, not even a bruise. And the doctor said, you have precious seconds. So she knew she had the headache of all time, because she did have migraines from time to time. And she set the baby down on the floor. I know this happened.
Oh.
And so, you know how people worship hands up?
Yeah.
But some of them have their hands open
That's
in front.
how I do mine.
That's how that's where she was in this position.
Wow.
Hands, palms open. So I knew that she said, here we go. Jesus, let's go.
Wow.
She knew what was happening. And
Put that baby down.
Yeah.
I just got cold chills. I mean,
I know.
because that is exactly how I like to worship. I'm like not up in the air. I'm kind of like this, and it may be one hand, but sometimes it's two, and it's just a.
That was Cecilia. So, and then it was the next morning, and I never had the buzz, the adrenaline and the cortisol buzz that I had. I couldn't believe how buzzy my headache was, or how my whole head was. And in that zone between awake and asleep, I had a vision. And I'm not trying to get weird here, but it was real obvious.
I know we believe in these things.
I know we do.
100%.
And it was Cecilia in a heavy white robe, and with gold braiding, and her hair was always amazing, long and curly, and it was just
She had
flowing.
that 90s hair.
It was
90s hair.
Exactly, and it was flowing back, and she had her arms stretched out, and she was glowing.
Wow.
But the glow was not from internal; it was from reflection. Okay, I know my light, right?
Yeah.
It was reflecting. I know, and she was looking up. I knew exactly who she was looking at.
Oh, wow. So after having that, the comfort and peace you must have felt.
Yeah.
Did you know immediately after you had that dream you woke up that was confirmation?
There was no doubt.
Wow.
No doubt. So,
God's little tidbits of peace that he will throw our way when we are left here alone.
Okay, so let's go to another tidbit. This is on the other end of the spectrum. So at the funeral, at the viewing, it was time to close the casket, right? And this is in Midland, and I don't know why I even said that, but there was an attendant, a middle-aged man, kind of big belly guy. Maybe that's why I said Midland. Sorry, Midland.
We still love you.
Okay, so he's standing there, and it's about ready to close the casket, and I said, Bill, whatever his name was, Bill, I want to do that. It's important. And he goes, well, there's a little latch and it gets tricky. Let me show you that. So he turns around, leans over the coffin. His belly sits on the coffin, and he goes, he burps right then and there. And I turn, and my best friends and my mom are standing there, and they're looking. And he didn't, I just said, excuse you. But I said, God, you are talking to the 8-year-old in me. God was speaking to me. I call it the holy burptism. He was speaking to, it's like, how could you not laugh?
Yeah.
And you needed that laugh in that moment.
It just,
wow.
It gave you some peace.
That is not sacrilegious at all.
No, not at all.
No.
It was just, and everybody else was like, oh my gosh.
She knew your sense of humor.
Exactly.
She knew your sense of humor, and she knew that was the perfect time, perfect place, and she's going to give you one last laugh.
Yeah, exactly. And God's saying, okay, let it happen. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. I'm glad we had Bill eat a Taco Bueno or whatever.
My favorite place in the world.
It would be her favorite place in the world. I
With
promise you that.
ketchup.
Just think about that.
Yeah.
It amazes me.
It's the small things that people don't realize that you're not even looking for. And God sends that to you, and it's kind of like you know what, you're not here by yourself. We're still up there watching over you and making you laugh in ways you just got to open your mind to it.
Exactly. Yeah. Listen to that Holy Spirit.
And I love, people handle grief in so many different ways. I know a lot of people try to go textbook. You're going to go through these stages, but everybody's grief is so
different.
very different. Walk us through yours.
Yeah.
I really think it was writing. I think every morning I sat and wrote a blog, and I don't think anybody read it, basically, but it was a good thing for me to have. And then, as we were talking about earlier, I just put it all together into a PDF, and that has helped. At least 7 of friends and ex-students had lost wives since 2008.
Wow.
And I think as far as going through the grief part, it's about being able to share and have those people with you, not do it alone.
Right.
And like you said earlier about the Rangers, they were there. I had a place that I could just let go and have fun and do the things that I love to do, and then have the moments on the other side where I had just me.
Still.
And, my Bible, my pen, my pencil, my book, and just write. As in, I read this, and years later, I read this, and I went, I didn't write this.
Wow.
There's no way I could have written, because it's not about me.
Right.
Okay? I'm really going to, when I say this, it is beautifully written. And there's no way I could have written that without the help of the Holy Spirit.
And I just feel like in some ways that's going to help so many people. I think there's ways to find. I have several patients who are dealing with grief right now. And, we kind of walk through that. Grief never really goes away.
Right.
You just learn to live life around it.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Grieving is the process, and that goes away.
Right.
Yes.
But grief, it definitely is always there.
Yeah.
It is there. And
It
you
is.
just learn to kind of live around that grief, and it's going to pop up at various times here and there.
It's so random. Yeah, it is so
in
random.
so many different ways. And I just feel like the writings that you did, they haven't got the attention they need, because so many people need to have that in their life. They need to hear that, and they need to be able to read what someone else has gone through so that they can connect. Because a
Right.
lot of times when they are going through that, they feel like they're the only ones that feel that way. You know,
And it does feel that way. I mean, when you're
does.
going through the process, it
think
does
nobody
feel
can
like
understand.
everything around you is continuing, and your life is just completely halted.
Yeah, my best friend since like middle school, it was a few years after Cecilia passed away that his wife passed. And I mean, we went through everything together. I mean, I photographed their wedding even and all the stuff, and she passed away. And he and I talked, and he said, Brad, you're the only person I can talk to because you're the only one who understands. Because everybody else is like, you'll get over it, or you'll feel better, or oh, we're sorry, blah, blah. And it's like, those don't help at all.
No.
Just like, Job's friends, just sit there.
Yeah.
If I need
My
you, I'll say
favorite
something.
book in the Bible.
Oh,
My favorite. Job is the man.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
people are like, when you go to heaven, who are you going to talk to? Jesus. I'm like, I'm going to talk to Job. Give me some Job,
Job and Nolan.
Nolan. Yeah.
Yeah. Take this, Job. There's 100 miles an hour at you.
Yes, 100%.
Welcome to the ballpark.
Job's like, I trust in you, Jesus. I trust in you.
And a good catcher's mitt.
But my little brain over here, and I might have got some of Brandy's creativity over here. I'm thinking grief and improv.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking we
Yeah.
have something here because that is so huge. And I think people who are grieving need to laugh.
They do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's certain things that those loved ones left
Yes.
that if you chimed into them real quick after the loss, people are going to thrive off that because they might not have remembered that story, but you telling that story through her is going to go, oh my gosh, that was so funny,
Yeah.
So
yeah, in the midst of.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But being open to those moments.
Yeah.
Even if that one was thrust right
Right.
in my face. It's like,
well, but you go back to now, you go to funerals back in the day, they're very stoic and serious, and it was just like very planned. And now it's like, if God forbid if I die, I want it to be a celebration.
be
I
a
want it to
party.
be funny.
Yeah.
I want a ketchup spray. I want a ketchup casket.
She loves
I
ketchup,
love
by the
ketchup.
way. I know
But-
you
obviously.
understand. She
And you said
loves
if you
ketchup.
die, I'm sorry to say this,
When
but
I
you
die.
would. Yeah, okay.
When I die.
Yeah, life is the terminal disease,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But, I love that, though, because we need to, I guess, destigmatize death and make it a celebration.
Yeah.
Make it fun. Make it something that, these people were really, truly known for,
Well,
right?
we're not done with you. We've got some plans for you.
Uh-oh.
We do.
We do. So yeah, your writings. I think that would be amazing to kind of open those up and let more than 7 people in. I think
Yeah.
And
that
I'd
would
love
be
for you to
amazing.
share that with us because we
Yeah.
can post that on our deal,
Yeah.
just a snippet of
Yeah.
Yeah.
your
yeah.
grieving process. Maybe it'll help some of our listeners.
I had mentioned that a good friend of mine with a serious brain, I don't even know what it's called, an illness, he put together a bunch of different people that have gone through different grieving processes, whether it's, for me, a loss of a spouse or whatever, cancer, and there was like 11 or 12, but he put a book together, and part of what I wrote is in that book. Of course, it isn't all the 256 pages of it, but and so it's out there at this point. But I'll be glad to send that to you.
Yeah,
Oh, we would love to
Yeah.
have
We'd
that.
love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%, and
Yeah.
share that because I think so many people need that. And like I said, I've been dealing right now with several of my patients who are going through some really tough stuff, and I think things like that can be so helpful.
Yeah.
It really can.
And the laughter part, the improv part, you don't want to minimize,
No.
at all,
No.
and make sure that people realize that what your goal is here, and if somebody doesn't feel comfortable, that's okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I said, everyone grieves in a different way.
Right.
I don't know how many people though have told me like they go through this whole period of sadness and then finally getting to laugh again. It makes all the difference
It
in the
does.
world when
It
they
really
finally
does.
get it to a point where I just laughed and it feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we did these shows with our Christian improv troupe at our church in Carrollton, we did monthly shows for 20 years, and so we got to know a lot of the audience because they would come back every month, right? And the stories that we would get.
Oh, yeah.
One lady said, for an hour and a half every month, I get to not feel pain because she's laughing at our show.
Yeah.
Yes.
And other people that kept going and were going through cancer and eventually passed away, and the families are saying, do you know how much this meant to my husband, my wife, whomever? And it's like, we're doing God's work here, by just being goofball guys on stage, guys and gals. I don't mean to
That's
denigrate.
okay. You can call me a guy.
I don't care.
Okay,
all good.
I just
what
want
I
people
am.
out there to know that we had women in the troupe that were just as funny. I'm not going to play that role. So that was just we knew we were doing. We knew what we were doing was right.
And I don't think you're done. I think that's such an amazing idea. I think
do.
just continuing to feed off that, especially in the grief process. How many times I'd love to have laughed losing the people I've lost.
Yeah,
It's just
100%.
and then it's like you said, it frees you up. You're free, and you're able to actually tap into more funny stories that may have happened that you feel okay talking about because you felt like it was not appropriate or not. And it's like, if it's appropriate to you, it's appropriate because you're the one grieving.
Exactly. And I think that with improv, it's an amazing experience because the audience is in the same place as us on stage.
Yeah.
We have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And they don't. And everybody is like, it's like, okay, we're focused
Where is this
here.
going?
And it's the difference between the Kairos time and Chronos time. Are you familiar with that? Chronos is, like the time that goes around on your watch, and the Kairos is the moment. And so in improv, that's all there is that moment. And for the audience to be in that moment with us on stage is, that's where time stops, right?
Right.
Getting into the autotelic moment or flow. I think you probably heard that. Cheek set me high, cheek set me high. In the book Flow is the moment that you are totally unaware of anything but what you're doing. And, I truly think that that's what heaven's going to be like because we're in the moment, we're worshiping, we're doing God's work on the new earth. And we're not thinking about the past, and we're not anxious about the future. We're just totally in the now. And that's one thing I love about improv.
It's the same thing in therapy. That is how I really approach therapy is we can't focus on the past. We can't worry about the future. We have to be in the moment. We have to be so mindful and be in this moment.
Yep.
It's the only thing we have control over.
Improv, right?
I just know when I get to heaven, I can throw my ADHD medication away.
You can.
Focus. One thing.
Well, one of the things that really led me to reach out to you, Brad, was the fact that I was noticing that you do work with nonprofits, and some of those are mental health related. We're talking, when people think mental health, they think depression, anxiety, bipolar, all of this, but it's so much more than that, right? And we're talking people with Alzheimer's or disabilities or other things that they're going through really does affect your mental health and affects the mental health of those around you.
Yep.
And so I noticed that you were doing a lot of those things. Can you tell us a little bit about those programs?
Well, one of them is called Songs and Smiles. One of the guys I worked with the Rangers years ago is an excellent singer, and he goes into memory care facilities and sings. And he's got his screen up there with the words on there, and he's singing all the stuff from Frank Sinatra and back, that kind of meet where the residents are time wise. And
Not playing Motley Crue.
that probably here in a few years he's going to have to change and start
AC/DC.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe just Led Zeppelin. Let's start there.
Let's start a little slower.
I'll let that go.
We'll start with Zeppelin, get the blues. But yeah, and so I've done photography with him, and then we are in the process of planning, doing improv workshops with the staff there, the family, and then
fun.
I love that.
we did a show at an Alzheimer's home. This was a few years back. And it's in one of the day rooms, right?
Yeah.
And they had the house dogs walking around,
Yeah.
these golden retrievers that looked like the size of like large pandas because they're fed by
so
everybody.
filthy. Yeah.
But we're doing
Favorite
a scene.
place in the world.
Exactly, room to room. Yeah. What do you got for me today?
He's got the look down. I haven't been fed yet. Yeah, you have.
Yeah. Whoa. But and one of the ladies just got out of her seat and just walked right through the scene. And it's just like, this is so cool.
Oh.
Just, and we just like,
I love
okay.
that.
I do love that.
Well,
Yeah.
it also makes you think, too, like the family members that get to see it.
Yeah.
How much down memory lane that person's going through that they may not have ever known about them. Even their personalities come out.
Exactly.
That they
Yeah.
never had before. And I'm like, that's pretty amazing.
To see those people start singing.
Yes.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
it just
That's so
perking
great.
up. And of course, photography-wise, there's so many cool moments.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I love it. one of my clients is a marketing agency for memory care facilities across the United States. And so I go into, I guess they're more like, what do you call them, when the homes that people go to, they're like apartments. I can't
Assisted living?
Assisted living,
Okay.
yeah. So it's assisted living through memory care, and I go in and take pictures of the residents so they can use them on their
social media.
on their social media, and So so I have to improvise constantly, and then set these photos up, and it's so much fun.
Oh, I bet.
It's so much fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
I do too.
So you get a lot of reward out of using your talents and your skills.
And making people laugh.
And making people laugh. I love
Which I've
all of
laughed
that.
a lot today. This has been such a
This
gift.
has been wonderful.
Oh my gosh,
And we are
yeah.
absolutely taking an improv class.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
all right.
we're not
For
done with
sure.
you. You've not seen
Yeah.
the last
yes, ma'am.
of Brad
I
Newton
will
and
set it
Mental
up.
Perk.
That's
We're-
right. Yeah. Yeah.
So we've got some plans for you, but we so much appreciate you being a part of
Yeah.
our
Oh
Oh
show.
my gosh, yes,
Yeah,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah, and getting out the word of all these wonderful things that you are
Yeah.
doing and using to make people really laugh and be in touch with themselves, and really it helps their mental health. And so we really appreciate you,
Yeah, we
Brad.
do.
Thanks
Appreciate
so
you
much.
guys.
Thanks.
Thank you
All right.
very much.
If you or anyone you know is struggling with mental health issues, please reach out to talk to someone you trust. Get connected to a mental health professional who can help you find ways to cope and ultimately feel better. If you are having suicidal or self-harm thoughts or thoughts of hurting another person, please go to the nearest ER, call 911, or contact the National Suicide Hotline at 988. Thank you for tuning in to Mental Perk. We hope our talk today highlighted real people working through real issues based on mental health. Our goal at Mental Perk is to make sure every one of you knows you're worthy. We're in this together.